So shipwreck ecology right now is a really big research area for Global Reef. The reason it's so fantastic to study this here on Koh Tao is because we have a really perfect little study system. We have an older established shipwreck, and then in 2022, 2 more shipwrecks were deployed, and we actually heard about them in advance and were part of the deployment team so that we could actually monitor the area before, during, and after in every stage. This allows us to have a really perfect study system that is really rare in marine field research, and generally it allows us to ask a lot of really interesting research questions and try to understand early successional stages of shipwrecks from a lot of different angles. So we already have 2 papers published in our kind of shipwreck research umbrella. The first is Bailey et al. 2024, led by our founder Piers Bailey. This one is looking at artificial reefs, primarily the shipwrecks, but also some of the concrete blocks placed around the island as a tool for fisheries management in the Gulf of Thailand. So it's really looking at which fish assemblages are preferring the natural reefs. Are there certain ones in those areas that are preferring either concrete blocks or shipwrecks? And generally the finding is that a lot of our larger predators, a lot of our mesopredators like snappers, are preferring these artificial reef environments to our natural reefs around. So the second paper was a follow-up from the first. This has now been published in Marine Ecology Progress Series at the start of 2026. It's my lead author, so it is a Taylor et al. 2026. And basically this one is looking at how shipwreck fish assemblages compare to different kinds of natural reefs. Are they more similar to our local inshore fringing reefs or more similar to our offshore pelagic pinnacles with really high vertical relief? Generally, the finding is that the predator assemblages of fish are very similar to the pelagic pinnacles with high vertical relief, lots of spatial isolation, and so we're seeing a lot of those mesopredators and big high trophic level predatory fish on that. The main finding though is that while these shipwrecks can replicate some of the functional group assemblage, looking at those predators, it doesn't have the same representation of all of our functional groups, including our grazers or herbivorous fish and a lot of our lower trophic invertebrates. Those are notably absent on our shipwrecks compared to both kinds of natural reef. So the kind of general finding is while it can replicate some conditions of our natural reef and support certain groups of fish, it actually can't replicate the full ecological spectrum of a natural reef, and therefore we need to continue with our natural reef conservation. So our next piece of research that we're working on right now is currently in review with the Journal of Applied Ecology, and this is our attractor versus producer hypothesis. This is leveraging the strengths of this long-term temporal data set from the deployment of these 2 wrecks, and basically looking to understand if these shipwrecks are acting as attractors of fish, basically pulling fish off of the natural reef ecosystems, or if they're acting as producers of fish and actually producing new juvenile fish through habitat provisioning or larval settlement. We work really closely with the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources, which is known as the DMCR in Thailand. They are the governing body for pretty much anything that involves coral reefs, diving tourism, or any of these shipwreck and artificial reef deployments. The DMCR is who controls these artificial reef deployments, and because we've worked very closely with them for quite a while, and including with the deployment of these 2 sister ships, they have asked us last year to basically do a bit of a snapshot report of how these wrecks have been developing over the past 2 years. So that gives us a really good starting point to start understanding successional dynamics on these shipwrecks. So we've done that report, and our next piece of upcoming research is actually to be looking really specifically at successional dynamics on these early stage shipwrecks. The other next piece of research that we're really excited to begin working on is using some stereo video systems to estimate biomass production on shipwrecks and really drive home that kind of half of the producer question and looking at what types of production are occurring on our shipwrecks.